college, ping pong, lottery. Doug, I want to read this to you. Okay. I am lucky in my life. I don't have anxiety or panic attacks. I was reading a story a couple days ago where somebody does. And he was saying he has to live his life a little differently to avoid intensity in crisis because it ramps it up. Now, this is not perfectly analogous, but when you're an ISO player, when you add the intensity of the playoffs, you get more ISO-centric. We saw that with Westbrook. He almost imploded. Listen to this number, Doug. It's fascinating. According to Second Spectrum, Houston had 45 isolation plays in Game 1. Okay, that's the most by any team this year, playoffs or regular season, over the past 5 years. And it doubles what they averaged in the regular season. My point being, we saw with Westbrook, ISO tunnel guy went even more into the tunnel. I'm watching last night, and I'm sitting there thinking, James, this is the playoffs. You need to be a little less ISO. Did you notice that?
Of course. I thought Chris Carter has a saying where he talks about money doesn't make you someone else. Money makes you more of who you are. Right? He says that about NFL players. That's, money makes you more of who you are. And I think the playoffs are the exact same thing in any sport.
Yeah.
And this is a team that has become too dependent upon James Harden. And by the way, that's by design from the Golden State Warriors. If you watched on several of those layups to which Harden was almost uncontested, they bluffed at him and then they got back. What they wanted to do was they wanted to make him finish because in addition to the fact that it exhausts him at the defensive end, he's already not an energetic defender.
Yeah.
Right? It also frustrates his teammates, right? Yo. And so if you watch, the reason they lost that game was missed rotations, lack of energy defensively. Golden State moves the ball once or twice, and then Durant gets hot, hits a couple of shots. And what was a tie game at the half felt non-competitive in much of the second half.
It did to me.
Right. And I think there's a double effect. One, it affected Harden defensively, and I thought it affected negatively the Houston teammates in that they got tired of standing around watching him over dribble. And they weren't getting the dunks. They weren't getting the open threes. Golden State only turned the ball over 9 times. They're usually a high turnover team. And so by design, Golden State made it, hey, James Harden, you can go for 41. Statistically, James Harden had a great game. Steph Curry played poorly, statistically. And yet Golden State dominated the game. Why? Because Golden State wanted to make Houston more of what they were. And it became too much ISO, too much James Harden left, too much James Harden right.
You know, it's interesting. I'm watching Draymond Green get real feisty early. And, you know, I always said this about Dennis Rodman.
Same guy.
Dennis Rodman knew what he was doing. Now, he may not know with North Korea, or whatever he's doing. But Dennis, in those spaces, there were games, you remember this, of course, because you're kind of a basketball savant, where Dennis would have no points and 19 rebounds. He knew exactly what it was. I'm watching Draymond last night, and I'm like, he knows what he's doing.
It's amazing about Dennis Rodman because they're the same guy, even though obviously Draymond's far more skilled at the offensive end.
Yes.
NBA 2K has the all-time great Bulls teams, all-time great Celtics teams, and I came from 25 down and beat my son 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
He kept shooting jump shots with Dennis Rodman. I was like, what are you doing? It's like, Dennis Rodman can't shoot. He's like, why is he in the NBA? He's like, he's not in the NBA. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's like, why is he in the Hall of Fame? He can't shoot.
Right.
And I said, watch Draymond Green, the little things that he does.
Yes.
People think of Dennis Rodman, they think of the hair, right? They think of the piercings and, is he heterosexual, homosexual, is he all sexual, whatever he is. Dennis Rodman was the best defender in the NBA when he was with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
Then he became the best rebounder and defender in the NBA with the San Antonio Spurs. And then when he was with the Bulls, he took so much of the physicality and the pressure off of Michael Jordan. I know it was the second run of Jordan, but the way you used to beat Jordan was kind of the opposite of what the Warriors did last night, which was Jordan wouldn't pass. He would try and win it by himself.
Right.
He would do the opposite of what LeBron did 2 nights ago. He'd try and win every game by himself, and they just knock him on his ass every time he drive to the basket.
Right.
And Dennis Rodman said, no, you're not going to knock our guys around. I'm going to be the tough guy. I'm going to take all the focus is going to be on me. All the boos are on me. And that's what Draymond Green does. You can't push around Steph. He can't get into the airspace as much of Kevin Durant. Those guys can just, Klay Thompson, they can just play basketball, be themselves.
Right.
Draymond becomes the bad guy. He is a Hall of Fame role player. He's not a superstar in the purest of terms. Can't put him on his own team,
No.
average 25 points. He's not a very good shooter. But as a five-man, he can guard every position, and he can rattle the cages of the best in the business, and that's why he's the best role player in the NBA.
One of the things, Doug Gottlieb, that we know to be true is that stubborn guy, rigid guy, can't evolve guy, forget sports, is losing in America. A guy that's willing to adapt, person that's willing to evolve, work with others, is winning in America today. That's what's winning, not just in sports or that's what's winning. Adapt, change. I watched this Kevin Durant Westbrook divorce, and I got to tell you, I see rigid, can't adapt guy here, priorities in the wrong place, and I look at Kevin Durant and I see fewer shots, little less money, happy. I see a comfortable Kevin. I watched him last night, and I'm like, there's no pressure on him to hit threes. He just says, like, I'm going to stay around in this mid-range jumper area. I see a very happy basketball player.
Well, I also think he's improved in terms of competing at the defensive end, right? That's something he didn't do as well. I would agree with you that he enjoys the atmosphere in Golden State. Look, he's still a ball stopper. He still goes ISO. And if anything, Steve Kerr kind of screwed it up last night. He was humming in the third quarter. He took him out 2 possessions. You know, Steph takes 2 bad shots, and he promptly put him back in the game. It was an 8-0 run for Houston, which at least got them to within striking distance. So it's not perfect. But, look, I still think he left Oklahoma City not as much because of Westbrook, as much as because of an Andre Robertson. You can't play with another guy in the paint. You know, you can't play with non-shooters and with the type of offense. What makes Golden State special is they're one of the few teams that doesn't run a lot of ball screens. They don't run a lot of pick and rolls. Okay, the NBA is pick and roll or ISO-centric. They run some ISO, but they move the ball and run almost like a pure motion offense.
Yeah.
And it's unscoutable, especially when you have 3 guys that you have to guard to 40 feet from the basket. It opens you wide open. But I do understand what you're saying. Westbrook is becoming a worse version, almost a caricature of himself.
I thought this year in the Utah series, that's exactly right. And what I find now is the more Golden State wins, they're 25-3 in their last 28 playoff games. Durant's getting more secure with, hey man, I got my ring, I got my legacy. And by the way, as Westbrook loses, it makes Kevin Durant know he won the divorce.
You know, this reminds me of a lot of TV and radio personalities. It really does. I mean, where Chris Berman. We all grew up watching Chris Berman, but at the end, it almost like too many sayings, too much Berman, right?
Right.
Vital, kind of same way. Like he's a Hall of Fame broadcaster, but just like too much. Just call the game, and like you said, evolve and become more analytical. That's what happens when we get awards, when we get told we're great. I think that's human nature,
right.
Which is you become more like, oh, that worked. I'm going to keep doing that. And we keep feeding Russell Westbrook, telling him how great he is, averaging a triple-double. No one's ever seen that. MVP of the season. He becomes a caricature of what is a hard-playing basketball player who's a very tough cover. The difference between him and Harden is he will really compete at the defensive end, whereas Harden's got a lot of white flag in him. You know, you beat him, and he's like, all right. I'm like, Harden is James Harden is an incredible basketball player, especially offensively. I can't stand watching him play. He's completely unlikable to watch play, and I'm giving it up that he is dominant at the offensive end. I don't enjoy it, and I think most basketball people don't enjoy it.
I said this to start the show. I feel like I'm watching Westbrook with a beard. Like, he goes to the bench. He's in his tunnel. He puts the hoodie on. Like, when I watch Steph on the bench and Klay high-fiving with the team unit, it's just sometimes these ISO guys, by the way, that's what to your point, the NBA gives these ISO guys all the awards.
So now, in fairness, Durant does the hoodie thing as well. Durant kind of gets into it, but that's why he fits into what else they have there, right? He's the best player, right? Forget Steph Curry's won 2 MVPs. Everybody, including Steph, knows Kevin Durant's the best player because he can compete at both ends. Kevin Durant is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 2018. Here's what I mean. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had an unguardable move, right? The skyhook was unguardable. He was 7'2", and the best shot blockers in the NBA couldn't block it. Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall. When he shoots a 3, there's nothing you can do. And if you put a big guy, Nene tried to guard him, and it was embarrassing. You put a big guy on him, he goes by. You put a small guy on him, and small can be 6'8", and he shoots over you. But he fits into the culture. He's not as much alone. He is more into the team thing. But then you also have Steph. you also have Clay, and you have Draymond that kind of incorporate him, where this is James Harden's team, and yet his body language is bad. His defense has a lot to give up. And I think Golden State is smartly kind of stoking that fire of, hey, dude, keep going one-on-one. Oh, your stats are good. Keep going one-on-one. That's okay. Everybody else knows that's hard to play with, and the rest of the guys seem to get frustrated.
By the way, I think that's the same way Utah played with Westbrook, by the way. I think what Steve Kerr is doing is what the guy we love in Utah, the head coach, Quinn Snyder, did to some degree with Westbrook, which is, in the process, you'll get big numbers and the media will fawn. But over the course of a series, by about the second, third, fourth game, teammates get worn out. Finally, LeBron, Boston, game 2 tonight. I picked Cleveland in the series. I think veterans over young guys. I'm not shocked that in game 1, Boston came all in, guns a-blazing. I like Cleveland tonight. Close, your thoughts?
Well, if not now, then when? It was really weird. Look, LeBron struggled to get a step on Marcus Morris and on Al Horford. Yeah. Al Horford thoroughly dominated that game because, remember, he won 2 national championships at Florida for a reason. He can switch on to guards and wing players and keep them out of the lane while defending them. Plus, Kevin Love can guard him. Right. So if LeBron can't get a step and they're doubling him in the post and smartly, changing their rotations, and they're not making shots off of his pass set of double team, they're not going to win. I do think that LeBron unloads the tank, unloads everything he has in the gas tank tonight. Now you'll see 45-point LeBron James. The one thing, though, to be cautious of, if you're a Cleveland Cavalier fan, and you know this, is he almost ran out of gas against the Pacers several times when they said, go ahead, LeBron, kind of like the Warriors last night, win it by yourself. Will he have the gas in the tank for the fourth quarter? Because there is no one else on that basketball team that can create a shot, and this Celtics team is built better to defend him and built better to beat Cleveland off the dribble, which is not how Toronto was built, which is not how the Indiana Pacers were built.
Good stuff, Doug Gottlieb, the Duggar, after my show on Fox Sports Radio. Next hour, Lee Jenkins, Mark Schlereth, too. Coming up.